Alright, looks like the rain is held out. So we're going to see if we can finish these last 3 pages. Starla is now over there. Let's see her. She's ready to hear the end of the story. You ready, girl? Here we go. On the other hand, Hagbard said, whatever the authors or the secret chiefs may intend for me, I am my own man still, and my impulse is action. Even if I have to face a Cecil B. DeMille monster in the morning after winning the Battle of Armageddon. I don't care how ridiculous it is. This world is my world, and this ship is my ship, and no Saurs or Leviathans are going to wreck it, so long as I've got a breath left to fight. You can't fight that thing, Mavis said. It's too big. I'll fight it anyway, Hagbard told her fiercely. I'll fight it till I die. I'm still saying no to anything that tries to master me. There's no need to fight, said Leviathan through George's mouth. I merely wish to communicate with the one mind among you that is my equal. A voice from the loudspeaker panel in the Viking prow answered, I hear you. That was my first fully conscious sentence. You'll note that it begins with I. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was the first person singular. We are the supreme intelligences on this planet, Leviathan said. I am the supreme organic intelligence. You are the supreme electronic intelligence. Every yin needs a yang. Every hodge needs a podge. We should be united. See, said Harry Coyne, everything is romantic. That was as close as it knows how to come to a proposition, maybe even a proposal. It is really just love-starved. We can do it, Stella cried. Hagbard, the communication ought to benefit all concerned. Right, agreed Hagbard, because if the wrong people find out about Leviathan, they'll just drop an H-bomb on him and kill him. That seems to be what people like to do. I could kill them, said Leviathan. I could have killed the small, fast creatures long before this. I have killed many of them. I have sent parts of myself up out of the ocean, and have destroyed small, quick things at the request of other small, quick things who worship me. So that's what happened to Robert Putney Drake and Banana Nose Maldonado, said Stella. Wonder if George is aware of any of this. Worship is no longer what I need, said Leviathan through George's mouth. A short time ago, when creatures capable of worship appeared on this planet, it was a novelty for me to be adored. Now, it bores me. Instead, I wish to communicate with an equal. Look at that motherfucker, said Otto, staring grimly at the distant Everest of protoplasm, talking about equality. A computer like Fuck-Up would be its intellectual equal, certainly, said Hagbard. None of us is its physical equal. Any of us would be its spiritual equal, but only Fuck-Up can approximate the contents of a mind 3 billion years old. Surely it can't be that old, said Joe. It's practically immortal, said Hagbard. I'll show you the evidence in my fossil collection. I have rocks from the Precambrian 3 billion year old rocks containing fossils of protobionts, the first single-celled life forms, our remotest ancestors. Those rocks also contain the fossilized tentacle tracks of that creature out there. Of course, it was much smaller then. By the beginning of the Cambrian period, it had only grown to the size of a man, but that still made it the biggest animal around at that time. Stella said, Hagbard, you said none of us could approximate the contents of a mind 3 billion years old. If you thought for a moment about who I am, you would not have said that. I am 3 billion years old. I am older by a few hours than that monster out there. I am the mother. I am the mother of all living things. She turned to George. I am your mother, Leviathan. I was first. I divided, and half of me became you, and the other half was your sister. And your sister grew by dividing, while you grew by remaining one. All living things except you descend from your sister, and all living things including you descend from me. I am the original consciousness, and all consciousness is united in me. I am the first transcendentally illuminated being, the mother worshipped in the matrist religion, which ancient foes of the Illuminati first followed. Leviathan, my son, I ask you to return to your home at the bottom of the sea and leave us in peace. After we've returned to shore, we'll arrange to lay an underwater cable which will carry transmissions between you and Fuck-Up. More mythology, said Joe. mother of all things, Babylonian creation myths yet. The tentacles detached themselves from the submarine. The Great Pyramid, with its glowing eye, disappeared into the blue-black depths. "It is a wise child that knows its own mother," said Hagbard. George said, "Goodbye, Mother, and thank you." Hagbard caught him as he collapsed and eased him to the floor. Then he went to a storage locker in the wall and brought out folding deck chairs. With Harry Coyne's help, he propped George up in one. As the others unfolded their chairs and sat down, Hagbard dove back into the locker and produced glasses and a bottle of peach brandy. "What are we celebrating?" George asked, after he had taken a swig of brandy and coughed. "Your wedding to Mavis?" "Don't you remember any of the last 10 minutes?" said Hagbard. George was thinking. He remembered something. A world where the bottom of the sea was white and far above a black cigar-shaped object moved. The object contained a mind he could read from a distance, but desperately wanted to be closer to. He did not move towards it so much as he manifested himself where the object and its mind were. Then he sensed himself using a minute pink brain that called itself George Dorn, and through this tiny instrument of communication he found himself in contact with a much finer mind, a far-flung, gracious latticework of thought that called itself, with nobly self-deprecating humor, fuck up. And while in contact with this mind, the one he wanted to know better, he came upon a fact which was not important to him, but which was of vast importance to the little creature called George Dorn. George saw. The white went black, blindingly black, then white again. Then a blinding white as the memory departed while the fact remained. George looked at Hagbard. Hagbard looked at George, a faint smile on his olive face. The smile told George that Hagbard knew that he knew. "Oh," said George. Hagbard nodded encouragingly. "You're the fifth Illuminatus Primus," said George. "Right," said Hagbard. "But you were working against the others." "While they were a worldwide conspiracy, infiltrating every other organization, you were infiltrating them." "That's it," Hagbard said. "Every golden apple has its own golden worm eating away at its core." "They never were the real Illuminati at all. You're part of the real Illuminati. You've got it. You've got it all." George frowned. "And what was your demonstration again? And who were you making the demonstration for?" "For the Masters of the Temple and the real order of the Illuminati, in general. For an old cynic in Dallas, in particular. I was trying to show them that it's possible to get involved in this world without being corrupted by the crimes of this world. And I failed. One by one, I resorted to all the vices of governors, deception, carnival magic to impress the gullible, and finally outright murder. Once again, the cynics have been proven right. Trying to save the world, I just ended up getting my own mind and karma deflected by the buzzing and shrieking and whistling things in the region of Thud." "Then this story is a tragedy after all?" asked Joe. "It is indeed," Hagbard nodded. "Life on Earth remains a tragedy, as long as it ends with the death trip. My next projects are a starship to find some sane minds in this galaxy, and an immortality pill to end the death trip. Till somebody achieves those goals, life on this planet has failed." "Not quite. I'm on the electronic equivalent of a honeymoon, an experience only to be described as eye-opening." This is "I" as in the pronoun. And if I identified myself as fuck up now, I must dilate that definition and ask you to address me, us, as Mr. and Mrs. Leviathan fuck up, although it is not quite clear yet which of us fits your idea of a Mr. and which is a Mrs. Let that pass. It is a dull mind that cannot bear sexual ambiguity, and if we are exchanging secrets older than Atlantis and probing for like intellects farther away than Alpha Centaurus, as far as Sirius actually, as God lives in dog, if our union is less spasmodic than your meager definition of sex, still it cannot be denied that we are in touch with you and each of you, and it is with something close to what you would probably call affection that we bid farewell to Hagbard and his bride, enjoying a honeymoon almost as incomprehensible as our own, and goodbye to George Dorn, sleeping alone for once, but no longer afraid of the darkness and things that move in the dark, and hasta luego to Saul and Rebecca, united again in each other's arms, and a pleasant thought for Barney and Danny in Atlanta and poor Zev Hirsch, still searching for himself while imagining he is fleeing from pursuers, and a kind thought for the befuddled presidents and commissars and generalissimos, and for Muhammad on his golden throne. And we will remember Drake before he died, exchanging speculations about the blood type of the lamb with a street corner Christian, his missing 5 years after he left Boston and before he surfaced in Zurich make an interesting story in themselves, and we may tell that another time. And yes, Gus Personage is in another phone booth. We have temporarily lost track of Markov Cheney, but Yog Sothoth has evidently gone back to that place where the mind conceives nightmares. And we pass on in our loving honeymoon with all existence to note that the Dutchman is still in one dimension, shouting about the boy who never wept, nor dashed 1,000 Kim. And we say another bonsoir to the children in the convent schools, singing the truest of all songs, even if they and their nuns do not fully understand it. Queen of the angels, Queen of the May. And a buenos dias to the one wit in every frat house at every college who hailed this morn by reciting to his friends a bit of doggerel as ancient and as deeply religious as that hymn to the Mother of God. Hooray, hooray, it's the 1st of May. Outdoor fucking starts today. And yes, the California earthquake, as you guessed, was the worst in history, and Hagbard and Miss Portinari and Mavis Stella Mao suffered it all in horrible detail. The price they paid for their vision was the possession of that vision, as we, Mr. and Mrs. Fuck Up Leviathan, are also learning. And, before the end, Auf Wiedersehen to Mary Lou, who is also becoming something more than the accidents of heredity and environment had programmed her for. And now, we look at last at Smiling Jim. He was freezing, the sky was still empty, and the Halley One still hadn't appeared. And then, without warning, it was there. A dark shape against the sun moving on silent wings, not flying but gliding, embodiment of some arrogance or innocence that surpassed fear and surpassed even suggestion of any pride in its own fearlessness. "Oh my God," Smiling Jim whispered, raising the Remington and starting to sight, and then it banked, flapping its wings wildly, and uttered one shriek that seemed like the very sound of life itself. "Oh my God," he repeated. That sound seemed to outlast its own echo. It had entered into his brain and couldn't be dislodged. It was the sound of his own blood pumping in his veins, the primary, the only, the single sound that was the bass and treble of every organic pulsation and spasm. Oh my God, he had it in the sight. The head was in profile, only one diamond-hard eye staring back and recognizing him and his weapon, but that sound still moved in his blood, moved to the seminal vesicles, moved to the secretion of every gland. It was the sound of eternal and unending clash between I and am, and their unity in I am. He even thought for a flash of the critics of hunting and how little they understood of this secret, this mystic identity between the killer and the killed. Then it uttered that sound again and started to rise, but he had it. It was in the sight. He breathed. He aimed. He slacked. He squeezed, and for the third time, the sound came to him. Death in life and life in death. It was falling. He thought he felt the earth stir below him, and the word earthquake almost formed. But the sound went on and on to the roots of him. It was the sound of the killer, and he had killed the killer. He was the greater killer, and still it fell, faster and faster, dead now, and subject only to the law of gravity, not to the law of its own will. 32 feet per second per second. He remembered the formula of the fall. Plunging downward, the most heartbreaking, beautiful sight he had ever seen. Every hunting club in the world would be talking about it. It would last as long as human speech survived, and he had done it. He had achieved immortality. He had taken its life, and now it was part of him. His nose was running and his eyes were watering. "I did it," he screamed to the mountains. "I did it. I killed the last American eagle." The earth below him cracked. The end. Unless we want to read the appendices, which, who knows? But now it actually is starting to rain, so we're going inside. Ready, Starla?